Hi, I'm Nick Salazar for TriRig.com, and this video is going to demonstrate the proper installation and adjustment of the Omega brake. Before we do that, however, I just wanted to take a quick walk around the brake and show off some of the mechanical features and demonstrate how it works in terms of compatibility. So the brake mounts with a single M6 bolt on the back. This is the same standard that just about every road brake uses. So anywhere that you can mount, say, a Shimano Dura-Ace or Ultegra caliper or a SRAM Red brake caliper, you should be able to mount the Omega. And there's another document with a little bit more information about compatibility on TriRig.com, so check that out. You'll also notice that this bolt is situated in a slot where it has a little bit of up and down movement. The bolt actually doesn't move when it's on your bike, it's fixed in position, and what that slot does is allow you to adjust the height of the brake at once. And then the angle of the pads is adjusted via this bolt right here, and the pad stance is adjusted via these set screws right here. You don't need to use any kind of barrel adjuster, and it's actually not advised for you to use anything that changes the length of cable going to the Omega brake. Once you set it, you just leave it alone and you make all your adjustments via these bolts down here, which is actually rather convenient. The Omega comes with multiple bolts for mounting either as a front or rear brake. So let's open up this front brake and take a look at the insides. The two bolts on the front do not require much force at all to screw down. These require maybe 1 Newton meter of force each. So this is the inside of the brake. As you can see, it's very, very simple. Each of these arms is just two pieces, the lower half and the upper half. And then there's a wedge in the center with an M6 set screw in the middle, and that's where the cable is pinched. And then the bolt is behind there. And if we remove the wedge, you can see the bolt just slides out freely. So this is how you exchange the bolt for a longer or shorter version. And with everything back in place, there's the brake. So you'll notice it doesn't want to center when it's free like this, but once the faceplate is on, the faceplate has a little centering groove for the protrusion on the wedge, and so the brake remains centered once it's fully installed. But while we have it open like this, it may not be centered all the time. So you can see here the cable hanger is part of this structure, and you can see the little separation there where you can remove the cable hanger and install this piece instead that takes its place but does not have the cable stop on the top. This is useful if you want to mount a steerer mounted cable stop like the ones that are sold from Tektro. I have a link to those cable stops, but I do not provide them with the Omega. So the default installation for the Omega is to use this cable stop right here, but because some people will want the cleaner aesthetic of the steerotube mounted cable stop, I've provided that option as well. In terms of aerodynamics, this cable stop and routing a housing all the way up the head tube is actually no slower than just mounting bare cable. It turned out that from our testing we couldn't really detect a significant difference between one method or the other. So in terms of aerodynamics, you don't need to do anything fancy. You can use the standard cable routing from the integrated cable hanger. But nevertheless, I'm going to show you how to remove that and switch it should you want to. This is an M2 Allen wrench. So you replace it with the other version and just bolt it into place. And then you've got that version installed for the use of steerotube cable hangers. The other thing to note is that if you're mounting this as a rear brake on some triathlon bikes, they have a different type of mounting system. They have a unique mounting system that requires you to first bolt the brake onto a different piece and then bolt that piece onto the bike. That's the case with all the Cervelo tri-bikes, including the P3. When you mount this brake to that piece, you'll want the cable hanger off because it provides additional clearance for you to access the bolt that mounts the whole assembly onto the bike. So just keep that in mind when you're installing this brake on something like a P3. So that's about all for the mechanics, so let's go ahead and get to the installation of the brake itself. Begin by taking the brake and a regular recessed brake nut and bolting the brake on as normal. You can adjust pad height here at this same bolt, which moves the entire brake up and down. When you've achieved the appropriate height, tighten the bolt down. One thing to keep in mind when installing the Omega is clearance to the head tube. So on head tubes like the P3, there's a bit of a protrusion that comes out, and the Omega's cable hanger angles outward to try and minimize this type of interference. But if you need more clearance, the Omega has several lock nuts that nest into each other and form spacers between the fork and the brake. Pad angle is set via the pad holder bolts here. Once the brake has been installed, remove the faceplate in order to gain access to the wedge where we'll install the cable. The appropriate length of cable to have is about 1 centimeter past the set screw pinch bolt in the wedge. So with that length of cable in place, you route the cable through the hole in the top of the wedge, use a set of pliers to pull the cable taut, and then tighten the set screw in order to secure the cable. Put the faceplate back on and bolt it back in place. The final step is to adjust your pad width. You can do this via the set screw that's on the side of the brake. It's a 2mm Allen wrench that adjusts this, and just simple turns forward and backward allow continuous adjustment for any pad width that you desire, and it allows you to achieve centering really easily and allows you to adjust for different widths of rims really easily. And that's all there is. Thanks very much.